At the time of its completion, Port Island in Kobe City, Hyogo Prefecture, was the world's most populous artificial island. More than 40 years have passed since its completion, and now many commercial facilities are vacant and the area is becoming desolate. Even though it's a location that's easily accessible from the center of Kobe and the major city Sanomiya, why are there so many vacant spaces? One factor is that the population has declined by 25% compared to its peak. Various reasons have been cited, such as companies leaving and changes in people's lifestyles. In this video, I will introduce the history of Fort Island, from when the town first opened up to the present and beyond, while walking through the streets. Here at Matsumatsu Explorer Team, we will continue to create many videos that everyone can enjoy, so please be sure to subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate it. Thank you. That's what I mean. So, I'm the new transportation system's port liner. I arrived at Minatojima Station. It looks like I came here by train, but actually I came by car. This is the place. From the center of Kobe, Sanomiya, you can get here in about 10 minutes by taking the port liner. The last stop of the port liner is Kobe Airport. As the name suggests, it goes from Sanomiya through Port Island, and at the end, there's the airport. I have to say, access is pretty convenient. I really love artificial islands, so of course I also love Port Island. I've received a lot of requests until now. This is a place I've been to before, but I'm really happy that I can finally feature it in a video. This artificial island-like, or rather reclaimed land-like atmosphere is really nice, isn't it? Sorry if I couldn't convey that well. From here, first of all, I'll tell you about how Port Island was developed. Port Island was divided into Phase 1 and Phase 2 for construction and development. Construction began in 1966 and was completed in 1981. Phase 1 was in the northern part of the island, with construction starting in 1967 and finishing in 1980. Phase 2 was in the southern part of the island. That's how it is. Since the preparations were carried out in the sections where the landfill was completed, I didn't really pay much attention to it. It's okay, there's another one nearby. There's an artificial island called Rocco Island, which was constructed in 1988. Port Island is often called Portai, and Rocco Island is often called Rockwai. Rocco Island was developed mainly as a residential area, but since a bubble hotel opened here during the bubble economy, you can still feel the remnants of that era. There are a lot of buildings here, and I tried to summarize the features of each large commercial facility, but I think you can really get a sense of how impressive they are. Some places have changed since I made the video, and since it was one of my early videos, the narration is pretty rough, but I'll put the video in the summary section, so if you can tolerate the narration, please check it out. Each artificial island was created by excavating Mount Igoba and transporting the soil and sand to the sea to build the islands. During the period of rapid economic growth, the amount of cargo handled at Kobe Port increased beyond expectations. To cope with this, Kobe built new piers and made other improvements, but even then, it was difficult to keep up with the ever-increasing volume of cargo. Kobe City is squeezed between the mountains and the sea, and its population was concentrated in a narrow area. An extremely bold and ambitious idea comes to mind. If we cut into the mountains, we could create new streets and make it possible for people to live there, so they even started excavating. If we transport the soil and sand to the sea and build artificial islands, we can further expand the area in various ways. By doing this, we can create a port city equipped with urban functions. Thinking that this might be possible, Kobe City considered it. The idea of Port Island emerged. This was back in 1963, more than half a century ago. That grand plan was carried out, and from the start of construction it took 15 years to complete. First, one of the world's largest population and port islands was created. Incidentally, the area where the mountains were excavated was also developed into residential land, and the area where people could live expanded significantly with the development of Suma New Town. At the same time as the construction of Port Island, the Portopia Expo was held on the island for about half a year. Before the Expo was held, there were various issues raised, such as what would happen to the site afterward, but it was a great success. Later, Kobe Port Island, which would be developed as a permanent amusement park, was originally opened as a recreational facility for this Expo. There were things like that too. The Expo attracted significant attention, surpassing expectations and setting a record for the highest visitor turnout among regional expos. As of 2024, that record remains unbroken. The success of this expo led to a series of regional expos in the latter half of the 1980s. It was the catalyst for the boom. Kobe City became known as a model for urban management and was even called Kobe Corporation. This is what it's like. This is the situation. If I use PowerPoint as an example, it's like this. Portopia, inspired by the Expo's success, was followed by the Port of the Future and Wakayama's Wakayama. It's the same with places like Marina City. The Expo was held in local areas that developed alongside the city's opening. After the Expo ended, many textile and shoe-related industries gathered there. Kobe Fashion Town is being developed with careful consideration given to the historical site. It's wonderful that the Expo was held, isn't it? However, the volume of cargo handled in Kobe increased, and Kobe at that time continued to grow. The port boasted the third largest container handling volume in the world, and was not only Japan's, but also Asia's leading trading port. Even before the construction of Port Island, Rocco Island was being developed in parallel and reclaimed. The cargo volume rises. On the other hand, it had reached a point where just the first phase of Port Island and Rocco Island alone could no longer handle all the containers. So, in order to expand Port Island and increase its area to the south, the second phase of Port Island construction began. The first phase has a well-developed living environment, but the second phase does not. Even now, there are no residents. It's land used for inappropriate purposes or for factory and office facilities. It's made up of things like office buildings. About 20% of the other area is made into green spaces for sports and recreation. So, would you say it's more for people to visit and play rather than live there? I think that's the opposite of the first phase. Up to this point, I've explained the process leading up to the development of Port Island, though I've left out a lot of details. If I go any further, it will get too long, so I'll stop here for now. Now then, right near the site of the first phase Portopia Expo, residential areas were developed and improved. The target population was set at 20,000 people at that time. Many high-rise residential buildings were built. The location is in the northern part of the island, around Ichinoko. Now, let's get to the main topic of this video. There are many high-rise residences built around Minatojima Station and the neighboring Shimin Hiroba Station. The vacant lots nearby are being replaced by notable commercial buildings, steadily developing the area. Basically, the target is people who live on this port island. I wonder if that's related. Most of the commercial facilities are located on the lower floors of high-rise residences. By the way, rather than calling them commercial facilities, in some cases it might be more appropriate to introduce them as shopping streets, but that's a minor detail. Since there's no strict definition, I feel like it would get confusing if I try to separate and introduce them, so in this video, I'll introduce all of them as commercial facilities. First of all, the first place I'll visit is located right near Minatojima Station, Port Island Shopping Center. This is the only large-scale commercial facility on the island that has a supermarket. In front of the entrance, there's a sign stating that Port Island Springlight opened in 1981, the same year as Port Island. It means that more than 40 years have already passed since it opened. It's quite a historic commercial facility, isn't it? By the way, it's located on the first floor of a complex called Evergreen Port Island, making use of this curved line. The plaza looks really cool. Since we're filming in the middle of summer, it's extremely hot and I almost collapsed, so for now I'll move into the shade and introduce the facility from there. This Port Island shopping center supports the lives of the people who live here. If this facility were to disappear, it would become very inconvenient, so I think it's an absolutely essential place that can't be done without. It looks like there are banks and pharmacies outside. If you look closely, you'll see that a tree has grown up through the roof, which is pretty interesting. Alright, let's go inside. The interior still has a really traditional Japanese feel to it, which I really like. It seems like chain stores and individually owned shops are operating together here. Each tenant has a major British chain supermarket operating inside. There's a big boy statue, and in the past there used to be a Dom Dom burger as well. Both of them were originally stores from a major British chain. Maybe it's because the tenants are gourmet city stores. It's not that the vacant tenants stand out, but for better or worse, the age of the place is noticeable. Only the recently renovated area is beautiful, and only for a few years post-renewal. The lingering Japanese atmosphere is actually nice for someone like me. I think one of the reasons they can't do a large-scale renovation is because there are people living on the lower floors of the mansion. Part of the ceiling is made of glass, so you can see outside. I like how old buildings are basically designed so that only the people who live there can enter, but even commercial facilities have a personal touch added to them. However, I can't really say that it's lively at all. Even considering only the floor area of the first floor of the mansion, I felt like this situation is a bit tough. Now, leaving the Port Island shopping center behind, I'll move to the north side. Inside Port Island, there are walking paths laid out, and you can get around without having to walk close to the roads, which I thought was wonderful because it allows you to go to various places easily. The sense of safety is also good, so I feel like it's a place that's suitable for raising children. I can already see my next destination. Next, let me introduce you to the Tokyo Port Avenue shopping street. It's located on the lower floors of a high-rise apartment building called Kobe Port Village. It seems that the correct pronunciation of the mansion's name is Bireiji, not Bireiji. The apartment building was likely built in 1982, typical for this area. I also assume the commercial area likely opened simultaneously. So let's wait for Port Island. That's about a year after it opened. Higashitakara store is located here. However, since Toho is transferring its supermarket business, this place is also set to close soon, after which it will turn into a drugstore. The plan seems to be leaving the island without any supermarkets, as currently there are only two, Gurume City and Toho Store. From now on, Gurume City will be the only supermarket. Many people used to come to this Toho Store to shop, but there are quite a few other tenant areas. It's become a sad situation. About half of the stores and shutters are still open, I guess. There used to be a stylish cafe selling coffee, a small library, and recently several new shops have opened as well. It may sound harsh, but it doesn't seem like the area is completely dead. I think most of the stores that are still open are individually owned businesses. Some spaces on the second floor have been turned into tenant areas, but the shops below are closed and there wasn't a single person around. It felt really lonely. I passed by what seemed to be some local residents walking around, but since Miyake is close by for shopping, I wondered if most people end up going off the island to shop. So I'll end this video here for now. In the next video, I'll show you more of the Gala Gala inside Port Island. I'll introduce commercial facilities. It was shocking to see that it was full of shutters and everything above the second floor was completely closed off. In the next part of the video, I'll explain why the commercial facilities inside Port Island are in such a rundown state, while also sharing the current situation of the entire island. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and give it a high rating. That's all from me, Matsumoto, wherever I am. This was the investigation team. See you next time. Thank you for watching.